No bake chocolate oatmeal cookies are simple and delicious. The previous version that I did, the peanut butter oatmeal cookies, were a fantastic success. Everyone really liked them, so I wanted to give a chocolate version a try. I am basing my version off of Danielle's original recipe. So thank you, Danielle, from livewellbakewell.com. I did a little bit of research and I think that this is what I'm going to do. As you can see, it has just a few ingredients. To start off with, I have 1 stick of butter, or 113 grams, in my saucepan. I have a half of a cup of milk, or 120 grams. I have 1 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 350 grams, as she measures it. And as you can see, I have a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of white sugar. I did about half of a cup of brown sugar, 120 grams, and the rest white. Brown sugar is in almost every chocolate chip cookie recipe, and a lot of people like to add brown sugar to oatmeal, so I think it just makes sense to add a little bit to this recipe, and I needed to use it up, so it's going in there. I'm using 1/4 of a cup, or 4 tablespoons, or 20 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. I'm also using 3/4 of a cup, or 40 grams of creamy peanut butter. And thank you everyone who suggested that I lightly spray the plastic wrap with a little bit of canola oil. And I also have some oatmeal. I have 3 1/4 cup, 325 grams of quick cooking oats. I'm also going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And as I said with the previous recipe, this no-bake cookie recipe goes really quick, so you need to make sure you have everything. So before you start, make sure you have a cookie sheet with parchment paper or wax paper, because we're going to boil everything together, and then we're going to scoop out about tablespoon-ish amounts onto the cookie sheet. They're going to harden, and then we'll have our no-bake cookies. So the first order of business is combining the butter, which is already in there, the milk, half of a cup of whole milk, the sugar. I know it's a lot of sugar. Some recipes call for 2 cups, but honestly I think maybe a little bit less would be okay, but I really liked them the first time I made them, so I'm just gonna leave the sugar amount unchanged, and the cocoa powder. And now I'm going to turn on the heat to medium and melt the butter. As the butter melts, I'm just going to stir everything together gently. As you can see, the cocoa powder is just starting to mix into the milk. That's because cocoa powder does not mix into cold liquids very well. I'm not sure if you saw my video on how to make chocolate milk with cocoa powder, but what you have to do is you have to make a slurry of sorts, take a small amount of milk, heat it up, add your cocoa powder to that, and then once it cools down a bit, add the rest of your milk, the cold milk. So you're going to have to add the cocoa powder towards the beginning. I think this is going to be absolutely delicious. I've never made this before, so we're kind of learning together. But I think it's going to be really good because, in essence, we're blooming the cocoa powder. I don't know if you've heard of that, but a lot of bakers, they tell you to bloom cocoa powder or to mix it with a boiling liquid, like boiling water or milk, something like that, before you add it to a cake, because it's supposed to bring out the chocolate flavor. That's what I do. I really couldn't tell you if it really truly makes a difference, but people on YouTube say that it does. So that is what I'm going to do. So because this is basically blooming cocoa, I think the chocolate flavor will be very, very intense. And now for a close-up. It's been about 5 or 6 minutes since I turned on the heat. Everything's melted, and I'm waiting for it to come to a full boil. As you can see now, there are bubbles all over the surface, and that is what I want. Now that the surface is completely covered in bubbles, I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute, and I'm going to let it boil for 1 minute while still stirring like this. And now it's been a little over a minute. Last time I let it boil for 1 minute and 15 seconds. So it's been 1 minute and 15 seconds now. As you can see, it was boiling very vigorously, and that's what you want. You want to make sure you start the 1 minute, in my case, 1 minute and 15 second countdown from the point at which you see bubbles all over the surface. So if you do not do that, if it doesn't get hot enough, the cookies will not set up. Now it's time to add the peanut butter. Like I said, I sprayed this. Maybe I didn't spray it enough. This is a bit of quilombo, as the Argentines would say, a bit of mess. Now I'm going to add my oats. Honestly, I could have used a bigger bowl, I think. Add them a little bit at a time. I am going to try freezing these. I read that they freeze well. I heard that they keep for at least a few days. I honestly think that these no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookies are going to be one of my new favorite things, because I love chocolate, I love peanut butter, I love sugar, butter's good. What's not to like? Now once these are completely combined, I am going to add my salt. Actually, I can add my salt and my vanilla right now. You can add your salt when you add the peanut butter, but remember, since vanilla extract has alcohol in it, you don't want to add it when it's still hot, because if it's still hot, then that is going to burn off some of the alcohol. I'm actually using a half teaspoon measurement, so I'm going to put in 2, but the recipe is for 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And I saw some recipes online calling for a tablespoon of vanilla. I guess you could, but honestly I think it might overpower the recipe a bit, because I could definitely taste the vanilla in these. Is the vanilla absolutely necessary? No, I don't think so. I think it would be fine without. And also, rolled oats I don't think would be good in this. For those of you who don't know, there are different types of oats. There are steel oats, or I think steel cut is what they're called. Rolled oats, also known as old-fashioned oats, and quick cooking oats. It has to do with the amount of processing they have. Steel cut being the least processed, and quick cooking being the most processed. I think that the quick cooking oats, and also with the amount of processing that correlates with cooking time, quick cooking, those require the least amount of cooking time. I think if you use a different type of oats in this, they might taste kind of raw. And I also think that they would feel kind of big. The pieces of oats would probably just feel like they're too big, if that makes sense. If you have old-fashioned oats, you could put them in a food processor to chop them up. Honestly, I think this is meant to be an easy recipe. It's not meant to be something that's a lot of quilombo, or that you have to go get a ton of ingredients for. It's It's a good, easy, delicious recipe. I literally just finished stirring. Now I'm going to start forming my no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookies with peanut butter. I'm using a teaspoon and I'm going to scoop them out like this. It's actually probably a tablespoon. So if you want to use a tablespoon, that is fine, but I don't want to get something else dirty. I'm going to literally just plop them onto the wax paper. Honestly, I think you can make them a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller if you wanted to, but not too small, because then I think they might not have enough material to hold themselves together, if that makes sense. And if they're really big, they might have trouble staying together as well. I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to form them or shape them slightly. Maybe if they're sticking up a lot, I might round them a bit like that. But I'm not going to really try to press them down to flatten them. Of course, I sampled, and it's very delicious as is. Once it cools, I think these cookies will be amazing. So I'm going to finish scooping these out, let them cool for at least half an hour, probably closer to an hour, and then I will bring you back. My no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookies with peanut butter are now done. They've been cooling and hardening for about an hour now. Some of them I made bigger than others, but you can see they all harden nicely. I wanted to show that you can make them smaller. You can flatten them out like I did over here if you want to with this one. So really, this recipe is not meant to be something that you agonize over. It's not meant to be something really difficult or time consuming. It's meant to be something good, really easy. The hardest part is just making sure that you boil the sugar and butter and milk and cocoa powder for enough time. The recipe says 1 minute, but I did it for 1 minute and 15 seconds, just to be on the safe side. And here they are. Very nice cookies. These look incredible. Let's see if I can do close up. These smell incredible. I tried some of the warm mixture. I'll have to try a fresh one or a full cookie. They remind me of chocolate peanut butter Rice Krispie treats. So here you can see up close. These are going to be absolutely delicious. So if you are looking for a good, easy, no-bake cookie recipe, you definitely want to give this a try. So thank you for watching. I hope you make this, and I hope you really like it. Thanks for watching. Bye.